All right. God is love. Let me change that up a little bit because, of course, he's amazing. We say that from time to time. He is all that. I think I've said that from a cheesy kind of OG term not too long ago. But once again, sometimes the Bible just says it best. He is love. So let's call this chapter Flee, as in flee away, because the thing that will be fleeing away in this chapter is sorrow. As once again, he's reminding his people of better times. In this chapter that begins in the first couple of verses talking about the way that the environment will see improvement before long, talking about the ways in which the wilderness and the desert, quite possibly places that were always wilderness and desert, but quite possibly places that were wilderness and desert because of the previous judgments that we saw, talking about the desolation that would come to the land. Either way, he is talking about a time in which those places will begin to rejoice. As verses 3 and 4 are going to start a section that's going to seem to bear some resemblance to the ministry of the Christ. As specifically, it's going to talk about being strengthened. Strengthen the hands and the knees that might have been feeble, and encourage the anxious hearts that they no longer fear or be troubled. As verses 5 and 6 are going to bear an even closer resemblance to the ministry of Christ as they talk about the time in which eyes shall be opened, meaning the eyes of the blind. Ears shall be likewise made to hear, the ears of the deaf. The lame will be made to walk, and the mute will be made to speak. As verses 6b, or the latter half of verse 6 through 7, will once again go back to the way in which the wilderness and the desert will have cause for rejoicing, as verses 8 through 10 close out the chapter talking about the way in which there will be a highway, a way of holiness, but there are going to be some restrictions. The unclean will not be allowed to go there, but those who walk in the way of the Lord, stating, as we mentioned a few chapters back, that even the foolish will find safety there, insofar as they seem to be committed into walking in the ways of righteousness and justice. That's my ad lib, but righteousness and justice are common, or such a common theme, that it's hard to unweave them out of the way in which God has established them as almost foundational principles for walking in his way. And so, insofar as we are foolish, but we are committed to doing right, this passage seems to offer us a measure of hope. Understanding that he will also talk about the ways in which neither lion nor ravenous beast will be there to disturb the peace of that time. But as the ESV titles this chapter, it will be a place for the redeemed and the ransomed of the Lord to enjoy everlasting joy in a place where sorrow and sighing will flee. Thus the title. This chapter quite possibly reminding me more than anything of the way in which God takes instances like this to remind his people that to the degree they are genuinely, not superficially, but genuinely seeking to do what's right, things will not stay bad forever. Understanding that part of the path to peace along this highway quite possibly involves God's people acknowledging the things they've done to destabilize the peace in their own environment and committing to leave those things behind as God sits as a refining fire, preparing us for a place in which everyone's sorrows flee.